What's up, everybody? Eddie Barco here again with the Nebula Music Podcast, and today I'm excited because I have San Holo joining me on this conversation. Now, for those of you who might be new to the podcast, I'm excited for you guys to join in. I do this every week. I bring on amazing musicians who are just killing it in the music industry, and San Holo is definitely no exception to that description. He was essentially my introduction to the EDM world, and frankly, I am blown away that he is taking time out of his day to join me on this episode, and so I'm excited to share that conversation with you guys. And as we transition into that conversation, if you enjoy the interview and want to stick around for some future ones, definitely consider subscribing. I'm on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, basically anywhere that you get your podcast from, I'm on that platform. And really, like I said earlier, I do this every week. I bring on really cool musicians that are successful and that do amazing things. And I do my best to dive into their thought process and understand how they approach their craft and really what makes them successful. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, you definitely don't want to miss out. But let's not waste any more time. Let's dive right into the conversation. All right, what is up, everybody? Eddie Barco here again today, and I'm very excited. This is definitely something I've been looking forward to a very long time because I have none other than Sander joining me on the show. You guys may recognize him for a lot of his music and may recognize him for his stage name, San Holo. And so I'm excited to have you here on the show, San. How are you, man?
Hey, Eddie. Thank you for having me. I'm great. I'm great today.
Can I call you San? Is that cool?
Yeah, everyone calls me San. That's the reason why I'm San Holo. Everyone's been calling me San since I was born. So
really,
yeah.
Wait, so how did that name come to be? I'm curious. I feel like everyone has to ask you that.
My name is just Sander, and it's a Dutch name, Sander van Dijk. And one day I was making beats, and my friend said, Sander van Dijk is not such a cool artist name, man. You need to find something else. And then someone shouted San Holo, and everyone laughed. Everyone was like cracking up, and I kind of stuck with that, and now I'm here, San Holo. It all kind of started as a joke, but it's funny.
I mean, it makes you laugh, right? I mean, and is that like was that just kind of like a random name, or was it like a play off of like the Star Wars character? I'm just curious.
I think the guy definitely had that in mind. I think the guy who said it is a huge Star Wars fan, and I knew what he was talking about. It's funny. If I'd go back in time, I'd probably pick a different name. Because now it's just like it's kind of a joke as well. But for a long time, actually, I was kind of worried about the name because I thought people might not take it seriously anymore because of the name. But I think we're past that now.
It becomes part of your name. It reminds me a lot of Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters. He always constantly makes fun of their band name because I think it was just like a joke name. What would your name, like if you had to pick or start over again, what would you choose? Like off the top of your head, I'm curious.
Well, actually, so as you might know, I run a label as well. It's called Bitbird, and Bitbird was first actually intended as the name of my side project. So I was thinking of naming myself Bitbird, but then we decided that we were going to make it into a label, and it was too late to change San Holo anyway because we've already had like the Don't Touch the Classic remixes I did 4 years ago. And so it was just, I just decided, I'm just going to be San Holo for now on. And I got to deal with it.
Rightfully so, man. Well, like I said, thank you so much for being on the show. I mean, I love just getting a chance to talk to you. For some of you guys, some of my fans that aren't aware, I actually got a chance to meet San a little earlier this month, and we hung out for a little bit, and you're definitely very cool in person. And I guess I just want to like maybe start a little bit from like the beginning, if you can catch me up a little bit of how you got into music, and we'll sort of take it from there.
Cool. Yeah, of course. So I didn't start out in the electronic music scene at all. I never wanted to be a DJ or an electronic music producer. I started out playing guitar 13 years ago.
Yeah.
And I saw like rock bands on MTV, like the typical every 90s kid grew up with, like Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit, all those, Rage Against the Machine. So I was so inspired by it. I was like, Mom, I really want to play guitar. And she was very happy that I wanted to do something because I was always working on school. I was this kid that always wanted to do good at school, get A's, and like I had nothing on the side. So she was very
So you're a
excited to hear.
brainiac, huh? You're a brainiac.
Well, I don't consider me to be a very smart person, as in I suck at maths and
We all do,
and
man.
a lot of other things. But I knew how to, study. I could really study and like be obsessive. And the way I learned my history was just literally reading the pages and just remembering the exact pages.
Wow.
So I could just like go back in my head and read the page. That's how I studied for history. But anyway, so yeah, I started playing guitar, and ever since that, my school went downhill. No, not really, but like a little bit.
You went from A's to F's like that overnight.
Yeah, it wasn't like that, but it definitely helped me a lot. In I had nothing on the side. I was just working on school, and that was all. And playing guitar really made me feel, like there was more to life.
Yeah. Like, how old were you when you started playing guitar?
I think it was 14 years old.
14. So, like, basically, right when you went to high school, like towards the end of middle school. Actually, I'm not even sure
Yes.
if do you guys have those separations in the Netherlands, right?
Yeah.
That's where you're from?
Yeah. It's slightly different. I don't know exactly what the difference is, but we do have middle school and high school. And then, wait, so high school it's not college, is it?
No, it's not. High school, college comes after high school. So it's like, we have kindergarten to 12th grade. That's like essentially 12, 13 years. And then once you're like 18 or so, you go to college or you do something else.
Yes. That's very true. Yeah. And college is, so I did high school, started playing guitar then, did lots of shows at my school, like the Christmas concert, or like the annual band night, and I really loved playing in bands. And it just like I just knew music was going to be a big part of my life. So I went to college. I mean, I don't think it's college. I went to the I think the name is conservatory.
Yeah, it's a type of college. It's like specifically for art, I think.
Yeah, it's like a music academy, basically.
Yeah.
And I did that for 4 years. I studied guitar, and I kind of started to be way more interested in recording music and like how do I get my guitar to sound like I hear on the records, because it's never the same. As a drummer probably that recording drums is a skill.
Yeah,
it's
very different from performing. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean your drums could sound great in a room, but if you mic it, it sounds a little bit like thin or whatever. So you have to replace the mics and like find the right mic height and all of that stuff. And I was really inspired by that, how to record music. So I got this laptop and installed Logic, and the whole world opened up for me. I was like, wow, I can make songs. I can make my own music, and I don't even have to go to a studio for that.
Yeah.
Which like changed my life completely.
And I'm curious, like when you first started messing around with Logic, right? What were some of the first things? So first of all, like I mess around with production too myself, but I'm primarily and will always be a performing drummer. Like that's my what I'm the best at. And it's very different transitioning from playing an instrument to actually creating legit music. And so I guess I'm curious, like when you got Logic and you started experimenting with your own little production world, what were some of the first things that you were like listening to and that inspired you and then you kind of sort of learned right off the back?
Well, the thing is, when I was playing guitar, the most exciting part about playing guitar was getting in the rehearsal space with the band to work on the songs that I wrote in my bedroom. So I was always writing songs, finding cool chord progressions, and like I had the drums already in my head. The drums should go half time here, and like it should go double time here, and the bass should play this, and so I was always kind of really bossy in every rehearsal.
You're a natural band leader then, huh? You're a natural leader.
Yeah, maybe. I was always like, does everyone know their parts? And the entire band started hating me at some point.
It happens, man. It happens.
And me finding discovering how to record my own music was just I was like, man, I don't need other people anymore. I mean, I love playing with other people, don't get me wrong. There's beauty in that you cannot get recording everything yourself, but it is very, very convenient to be able to record your own world.
Yeah.
I could program drums, I could play bass, I could do vocals all by myself and create a song and like upload it to the internet. And like that's me, you know?
Yeah.
There's so much beauty in that. Actually, the first things I recorded, and I experimented with, are all on YouTube. You might not know this, but my first project was called Kasi Lo-Fi. That's spelled Casilofi.
Kasi Lo-Fi. What does that stand for?
Well, I was really inspired by these little keyboards, like the Casio sample keyboards, and everything sounded very lo-fi, what I did back then, because I loved the sound of it. And you can actually, if you go on YouTube and enter Casio Lo-Fi, you can see all these videos of me messing around with all kinds of instruments. And it was kind of Casio Lo-Fi was kind of I documented all my first steps and all the songs I created the first years of getting into music production.
Why did you document it? Like, I mean, was that just for fun too, or did you feel like that was going to be like relevant? Well,
because for me, I love making music, and finally I was able to create a song and show it to the world, you know?
Yeah.
So I was like really excited, but I made little videos of it, and I just love to make something and put it out there, and not for people to like it or to hate it, but just, actually maybe for people to like it and hate it. But as long as they have an opinion about it, I just want to make something and people should just feel something, then I'm happy.
Yeah. I'm curious, like, is that your mentality or your approach with a lot of the music that, well, actually, let me ask you in this way. When you first started making that music, was that really your approach? Like, did you really just want to see what people would think? And the reason why I ask it that way is I know as a musician myself, okay, as a drummer, I can be very picky sometimes, or at least I used to be very picky as to how people would perceive my playing. And so I guess what I'm curious about is, do you feel like your approach to music was always that open-minded, as in like, I'm going to make this and I'm going to put it out and see what people think? Or were you going after like a specific, like, I want to make sure people like it, if that makes sense?
Interesting question. I think we start making music without any of these questions in our head, You start making music because you're somehow inspired to do so. We don't think yet of, I'm gonna make something and people are gonna think this. No, you just want to make stuff. And I think at first I knew I could play guitar, and I knew that I had a good knowledge of what I wanted to do. So I wasn't too scared of what people said. Even my parents were like, "Oh, it's interesting. It doesn't have any vocals." Like their musical world was so different. But still, I felt like I just wanted to release like, for example, with the Casio Lo-Fi, I did lots of ambient soundscapes, just soundscapes without any other sounds, just like drones, and I just really connected to that at the time, and I wanted to put it out. And I had like a really small fan base, like a couple of people that listened to it, but still, I would still be doing what I'm doing now if only 100 people would listen to me. That's the core is for me to create something. I just want to create forever.
Yeah, and I think that's the goal for a lot of us creative people. We just want to find a way to make sure that we release what we're actually doing. But what I'm curious about is like the electronic scene, especially now more than ever. Well, first of all, the electronic scene has been around for a very long time, since like even the 70s. Like nowadays with Facebook and everything, we're starting to see kind of like old school videos pop up of like old stuff. But my point being is, I'm curious how you got into like the electronic scene, because you're a guitarist, right? So we can argue that first and foremost, you started on guitar and then you gravitated towards Logic because you wanted to create your own world. What was it? What inspired you specifically that you wanted to explore the electronic scene? Because most other people, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I know at least out here in California where I'm from, most people tend to gravitate towards more instrumental, like actual band music, whether it's rock or pop or whatever.
Yeah.
But you gravitated towards production. And this was what, like a good 6, maybe 5 years ago or something like that?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, what was it that sort of like, what made you curious of that world?
I think it's very clear to me. Me as a person, I've never been too comfortable with, doing something that, how do I say that without sounding like a douche?
Oh man.
I really like doing something different. So I've never been too comfortable with doing the exact same thing other people were doing. So when you go like first when I went to music academy, everyone was playing. I mean, every guitarist starts playing guitar because of Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, John Mayer. Like the actual guitarist stuff. And I get that, and I was so inspired by that. I could play any Stevie Ray Vaughan song. Like it's so sick. He was so sick. But I realized every other guitar player that came into the music academy was playing that. Everyone was playing Little Wing, and everyone was playing, John Mayer stuff.
Yeah. Which is really cool too, though. But yeah, I get what you're
which
saying.
is amazing. Yeah, like amazing. And it's so inspiring. But I was like, these things already exist. I can start learning how to play like John Mayer, or I can start learning how to play like Sander, Sander Van Dyke or San Holo or whatever. That's something I'm interested in. So at some point, I just didn't feel like I could innovate on guitar. Back then, I felt like I couldn't, like nothing I did was something felt new to me. So I was like, I'm just gonna do something new and record music and find my own universe, and making beats. And it was such a free world to me because I didn't know anything of it yet. I didn't even know what trap music or EDM was. I never heard of the term before, but I started making it, and I was able to really do free stuff creatively.
Yeah.
And now actually, like 5 years later, I found a way to incorporate guitar again in my music that sounds kind of new to me. Like I'm working on this album that's I feel like no one's ever done it before. So and now I really feel at my best.
Yeah.
Doing something that's unique and new. That's just what inspires me. I think I was talking about this with someone. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was something like a quote that said, "I'd rather be original than unique." But I think I'd rather be unique than original. But I'm not sure what it means anymore. But I just say it. Yeah, I just really have this. I strive to be like unique and do something that inspires me. But I'm talking too much. I'm sorry.
No, but dude, this is all about you, man. I want you to keep talking. And you know what? My curiosity is always piqued no matter what. There's a lot of things I definitely want to ask you that I'm going to do my best to circle back on. But like, here's one thing I'm curious about. So you went to music school or music academy for guitar, and I completely agree. I think a lot of musicians, they want to be musicians, so they try their best to emulate somebody that inspires them, whether it be it John Mayer. In my case, I can name 50 other drummers.
Every artist starts like that.
Exactly.
Every artist starts copying because that's the best way to learn something.
Exactly. 100%. And so here's what I'm curious about, which I'm not even sure if it's like too broad of a question, but when you started experimenting with your electronic world, was it looked down upon by your current peers? Because you were, for lack of better example, you were a guitarist, right? And then you sort of transitioned into this new world that you felt inspired to create, which in hindsight, it was the best choice. And you have created something amazing, right? But at the time when it hadn't happened yet, I'm curious, like, how did that feel being a musician?
Man, you have no idea. Like,
I want to know, man. I want to know.
Okay, so I'll tell you this story. So I remember when I started putting out electronic stuff like trap music. I remember I just released my first EP, and I was still playing in bands at the time because it was just like I was still kind of transitioning to doing everything myself. I was playing in bands, so I came into the rehearsal, and that morning I released the EP. I threw it on Facebook and on the internet, and I was setting up my pedal board in the rehearsal space, and connecting my amplifier, and I could hear them in the other room listening to the stuff I just put out.
Yeah.
And I can still remember the look on their faces when they all came in the room, and they said nothing. They said nothing to me. They were like, I knew they just listened to it, and they just said absolutely nothing to me. And
really,
and then the other guitarist came in and he said, "Son, after the rehearsal, we need to talk." They just didn't get it at all. They had no. To them, it sounded like noise, and I had people say, like fellow students saying, when are you gonna put time into something when are you gonna put your talent in real music again?
Yeah.
People are really can be really close minded. Especially 4 years ago when this kind of the music I was doing like the melodic bass music was still kind of on the come up.
Yeah.
It was just weird to people. I think people definitely thought it was weird, like from my fellow students to my friends. They were like, "Son, you're a guitarist. What are you doing with these stupid keyboards and buttons? Go back to playing, solos again." And I just didn't feel inspired anymore to do that.
Yeah. Which I commend you for taking responsibility on your own to be able to find that creative outlet. Can I ask you, and obviously this is just speculation, but I have experienced that something very similar, not obviously with production or anything, but from peers disagreeing with what you're doing because of the way things quote unquote should be, what you should be, quote unquote doing. Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think in the music world specifically, because this happens a lot, man. And so I'm just curious what you think, like in the music world, why do you think a lot of creative people can sort of resort to that when they don't understand something, when they think something is too new, too weird, or just too different? It's not until it actually starts to take off that they're like, oh, okay, maybe he's onto something. But why is it that they like look down upon that experimentation process?
I think it's easy. I think we're all very passionate about what we're doing ourselves.
Yeah.
So we're very devoted and dedicated to whatever art we are working on ourselves, and I think it takes time and it takes years for you to realize that no two eyes are the same. Everyone has their own reality, and I'm guilty of it too. If I see someone doing something that I have never heard before, I probably think, this sounds weird. But weird is just a different way of saying different. It's and I think now, after years of doing music and art and seeing things, I realize whenever I think something is weird or off, I just take a step back and just observe and not judge right away,
Yeah.
I think it's very important as an artist to have an opinion. Of course, we all have our opinion. We all have very strong opinions as artists,
Yeah.
But I think you'll learn to have some breathing room in there and some sense of perspective. And everything, like I said before, everything new is weird at first.
Absolutely, man. And you know what? Can I tell you something? You're a very wise dude, honestly, for being a very young musician. I honestly am just kind of sitting here listening to what you're saying, like, oh wow, yeah, absolutely. Like he's starting to school me in my thought process.
Oh man.
Well, I mean, look, I can be closed-minded too. I'll be honest with you. And I think we were even talking about it before the show, like, being introduced to EDM and all that stuff. Like, I think it's a beautiful thing that your music and other people's music is sort of redefining what the music scene is today.
Yeah.
And so, like, what I'm curious about is, so you dove into music production, you sort of stepped away from what you were trying to do originally, and you started doing your own stuff. And now, in hindsight, it worked out for you. But I'm curious, like, when was the turning point? When you first started working on it, do you remember how it felt like, and like what happened when it was like, when you started noticing that, all right, my career is actually starting to take off?
So I was teaching guitar. I was a guitar teacher for 7 years after my during my conservatory, and after I was about to start a new how do you say it? Study.
Yeah.
I was about to start a new study because I felt like my music stuff wasn't going anywhere, and I was gonna study for becoming a music teacher at a school,
Yeah.
which is something I really didn't want to do, but I had to make a living. But still, I was teaching guitar, and every night I'd go back to my place and work on beats and music for till 3:00 at night, then sleep, and then go back to the music school again to teach kids how to play guitar. And it was just did that for years and years. And then at some point, I just made something like a remix, like the Dr. Dre the Next Episode remix. I just did for fun, and that just blew up. And I was making beats, and then I realized, people love something that they know, but then if I put it in something different, like a new universe, maybe they can relate to it a bit better.
Yeah.
So I Googled Dr. Dre the Next Episode a cappella, and I found this really crappy a cappella with a really low quality MP3. But by the time I knew how to make it sound better, so I threw that in Logic and made my own beat around it with my own chords and my knowledge of, what I think Sander or San Holo by the time was. And, I uploaded it and it just took off. Like YouTube, like a channel on YouTube uploaded, I think it was Trap Nation. And also on my SoundCloud, I was like, Mom, I have 1,000 plays on this track. Wow. 1,000 plays. And then it became 2,000 and then 5,000 and 10,000 and 1,000,000. Wow. And then it was, Mom, I have 1,000,000 plays on this track. And then everything started rolling. Like managers reached out to me. I found a really, really good manager for myself. Ever since then, I've been doing this. The first year of San Holo, I was still teaching. I was still a guitar teacher.
Like part-time?
Yeah. Even in between tours, I would just, I said to my boss, I'd say, I'm on tour from then till then. And then after I get back, I can teach. And the kids loved it because, they were following me playing these shows and they were like, my guitar teacher is also San Holo.
That's cool, man.
So yeah, I think the remixes I did were my ticket to, for example, America. And people started calling me like, "Hey, do you want to play your music at our party?" And I was like, "What do you mean play?" I never considered the possibility of becoming a DJ. Playing records. I never started making music to become a DJ or whatever, and I had to learn it.
How hard was it to learn it, to actually learn how to do the turntable and all
hard.
that?
No, man, you can learn how to. Everyone who knows basic rhythm and music theory can learn how to DJ. That's not I'm not going to debate if it's an art form or not because art is everything and nothing. But
that's such a deep statement.
DJing is something a lot of us can learn. I think it's the actual making music that separates you from the rest. I want to get back to one thing I said a second earlier. I was talking about DJing, not as I was talking about these days of DJing, like playing a record, mixing it to the other one. I wasn't talking about turntablism and scratching and stuff.
Yeah,
like scratching and like beat juggling is an actual. It's like, man, it's like beautiful. But I was just talking about transitioning songs to other songs, which the most DJ sets right now are based on. That everyone can learn, I believe. A lot of people can learn that with a certain musical mind.
What I'm curious about is, so you started touring, right? And you started playing all these shows. Why not quit being a teacher right away? Because you still stayed being a teacher for a little while after that, right?
Yeah, I think 1.5 years. Because very simple reason, the money. There's no. Everyone thinks that when you start touring, you become rich, and I think you and I both know that
not
definitely the first years are you lose money.
Oh yeah,
you're losing money and you're investing in what you're doing. So I was touring Australia. I did my first America tour, but I was just investing money in flights because the fees, the first year your fees are not high.
Yeah,
it's just you gotta show your face and you gotta tour your ass off until your fees start being profitable.
Yeah,
and it only started happening about 2 years ago. So
wow. And that's amazing that you still kept at it, because you're absolutely right. I think a lot of people, when they see you perform or they see a band or whatever, on a decent sized stage, they don't really understand the amount of financial dedication that takes behind the scenes. I mean, you got to hire so many people. That's a conversation on its own, but I'm just amazed at the fact that you still kept at it, because you can't, it's interesting to me that you were basically becoming a name and you're still going back home and teaching to kids, which is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to pay my rent.
yeah, but you were willing to do what you had to do, and I love that about you, man. And so since you started then, okay, and then now you're basically working on a new album, right? I know you're out here in LA, at least right now when we're recording the interview, and you're working on your new album. What I'm curious about is, since you started and you were experimenting with music, how has your music evolved to this day, because a lot of your tracks have been hitting it big, specifically Light and a couple of other ones that we can mention. But now you have something new coming out. So what I'm curious about is, do you know how much or how your music has changed since you first took off?
I can paint a really nice, clear image. First, it was one, it's guitar. Two was beats and electronic stuff, and now three, which is where I am at now, is a combination of those two, like guitars and electronic stuff. I think throughout the years, the vibe of my music has kind of stayed the same. I love melancholy and like nostalgic sounds and chord progressions that make you like feel, like you want to cry or something. Like I love pleasantly sad music, pleasantly sad and like moving parts, moving music. Like I love bands like Explosions in the Sky and like post rock bands that kind of they have that certain. Those bands sound like how I feel most of the time. Just like an emotional wreck.
Oh man!
So I think that vibe is just me as a person, and whether I do electronic music or guitar stuff, that's always I pick those chords for a reason because it's emotive to me. And
so like, what is I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm curious, like, what is like one of those emotions that you constantly convey in your music? Because we were talking about like being artists and being sporadic and having a mixture of emotions, but I'm curious, like, what are some of the emotions that you try to communicate with your music? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so this is the type of question that makes complete sense to ask, but it would make no sense to answer it. Because like I think we all do music because it's something that's almost above us. Like it will almost be a shame to put music into words. Don't you think sometimes?
Yeah.
Like I could try to find the right words that come, but they won't even come close to what music actually does to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I just want people to listen to it and feel like, wow, this touches my heart, and for everyone that's different. But I don't feel comfortable with answering what exactly I want people to feel or something. I can't answer it.
Which is honestly, thank you for being very honest, because you're absolutely right. I think when it comes to music, who was it? I think was it Bob Dylan or someone? I forget who it was, but when asked, what is it, the message that they're trying to convey, the answer that the artist would constantly give was like, it doesn't matter. What does it make you feel? You know what I mean? And
exactly.
That's the important thing of art. We all feel something different. Some people can feel happy, some people can feel sad. But I'm glad that you're putting at least your emotion into what you're making, which I think is the reason why your music is always so good, in my opinion.
Thank you. I'm honored that you think that. I just, as long as it comes from me, I think a big difference between maybe your world and my world, I don't want to call it that, but in EDM specifically, there's a lot of how do I say that? Like you can watch a guitar player go on stage and play guitar, and he's a good guitar player. But you can watch a DJ go on stage, and you have no idea what he's doing. He's just pressing buttons, and so there's a lot of, especially in EDM, it's very branded.
Yeah.
You can become very big by just having a big mouth and looking good on Instagram. You know what I mean? Like it's there's a lot of ghost productions going on. There's a lot of very smart business people behind artists that make them look like they are amazing DJs and producers, but in the end their tracks are being produced by other people. So there's I get why people judge on DJs, because there's way more room to fake it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I really want to communicate to people that I'm not, like, everything I do is 100% real, and it's really me, behind the laptop making everything you hear and putting sounds through tape loops, and like it's all real. Yeah, that's what I want to communicate to people, and I hope people hear that. I think people like you, like, I don't know if everyone would hear it, but I think the people that, like you as a musician, I appreciate that you say that, because, that you like my music and that you hear something in it, because maybe in the end that's what kind of separates me. I don't know. Like I hope there's more, some kind of depth to it.
Well, if I can be honest for a quick second, I definitely do my best in this podcast and other interviews to make sure that I'm honest with my audience too. And I try my best to be transparent. And I definitely was that guy. Just like 3-4 years ago, I was definitely that stickler musician who didn't understand electronic music. And I didn't make fun of it, but I was definitely like, I don't get it. And I understood my side of the story being like, oh yeah, they're just up there pushing buttons. But when I finally learned to have an open mind and understood what was going on with the music. And by that, I mean, I literally just accepted it for what it was. I just started listening and started appreciating certain aspects of it. Like me being a drummer, I started appreciating the beats a lot.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so that's where I sort of started relating. And now I love it. Now I can list you a couple of people that I really listen to. And it's odd for a lot of people in my area to like it, but I do see this like transition where musicians are starting to be a little more curious and more accepting of what, your style of music brings. But I do.
But doesn't it feel amazing when you show someone something and they're like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
What is this? And it's amazing. I think that's amazing. As long, if you feel something very deeply and you show it to someone and he's like, man, this is just noise to me. I think there's so much beauty in that, There's like I said, no two eyes are the same, no two ears are the same.
And it opens up dialogue because the key is to find those things that are like for me, for example, what helped me is loving the beat, right? And then I sort of grew into it. And I think that's the important thing is a lot of people just have to find that one thing that they relate to. And that's, I think, in everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For me, it's like the vision that I think sometimes I listen to producers or artists, maybe not even per se because of the music, but because of the vision they have or like, the statements they want to make in their music. I think I'm even more moved by that sometimes. Like for example, like make a beautiful track and like and make the vocals super dry. Like, everyone puts huge reverbs on vocals to make it sound, big and special, but like put no reverb on it, make it ugly, like, just like this I don't know, it's very specific stuff, but
no, I love
that's
what
what
you think.
Touches me.
I love everything you're talking about, man, because I love your approach to music. And I honestly wish I had hours to talk to you because you're very wise. and I am glad that someone like you, obviously we can spend hours talking about, what's fake, what's real, blah, blah, blah. But it's like the music industry is constantly full of real and fake things. But I think you as an artist, San Holo's music does a really good job of reaching out to a lot of different areas and speaking from an emotional standpoint, but also from a musicianship type of standpoint, because what you're doing now with your music is incorporating your existing guitar skills and applying them to your actual music, which I think it's a beautiful thing to see. And I think it's rare, to be honest with you, to see an artist in the electronic scene kind of mix both, mix an actual real instrument performance, which I know you do sometimes. You bring out your guitar and fucking shred and, combine it with music that can relate to a lot of people. Do you feel like that's something that's, going to start happening more often in the electronic scene?
Oh yeah. I have this feeling, I feel like people are getting tired a little bit of, electronic music that's just fully laptop. I just wish I could show you my album because nothing's out right now that I feel like really paints the perfect picture of what I'm doing right now. But like as soon as this album is finished and I'm so excited about the songs. It's really like a combination of both worlds. And I wish I could show you, but I just can't.
No, that's fine.
It would make so much more sense than all these words I just said. I hope you listen to it and you're like, yes, I get it now. I get what he's saying.
I'm gonna have to ask you when the album comes out, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get it. Which again, I love that you are finding a way to combine that world because I think it's necessary, and I think music is evolving, and I think as musicians we have to sort of start evolving with it. And I think you're doing a good job of sort of leading that stride. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think music is always evolving. Like from the very first moment it existed.
Absolutely. And you know what? As we begin to sort of wrap it up, one of the things I'm curious about is you have basically been performing with some really amazing places. I'm just quickly curious, like, what is one of your most favorite performances that you've done so far? Because you've played at some huge stages, man. So I'm curious, like, if you have like a top 3 or like a top 2 of like, all right, I love playing this festival and that festival. For whatever reason.
First of all, going to America to tour was like not a lot of people get to do that, so I'm so humbled that I get to do that. Every show I play here is so cool. It's so people are so into it. It's crazy. I don't see that anywhere else in the world. I just did Coachella, which was pretty special because my family was there, my friends were there.
Nice.
Yeah, and they had been seeing videos of me in America.
Was the old band there? The band that didn't like your music?
Some members, actually. My art director and like the tour manager was part of my band, and he, his name is Torvald, and he's like running the label now, so nice. keeping everyone close. But yeah, Coachella was pretty amazing, to be honest. There's so much hype around that festival, and I get why. It was an important moment to play that show. Took both weekends. Not something I will forget.
Nice. Very nice, man. Well, you know what? I know you're a very busy man, so I really appreciate the time of just sitting down with me for a couple of minutes and just like letting me understand your process to music, which I think it's amazing. The fact that you basically try to express your emotion. You wanted to create your own world and you went after it. You didn't necessarily let anything stop you get what you wanted. And I think you're creating a very good movement with your music. And so for anyone out there that's, interested in sort of like either combining music and their musicianship, or just maybe are interested in production themselves, like, I'm curious, like, what would you tell someone that's interested in sort of diving into that scene or looking for ways to actually like explore their own creative world, if that makes sense?
It's a good question. I think we could go back to the conversation we had earlier. I think we all start out making things inspired by other people. Everything we do is inspired by other people. And I think we all start with copying people.
Yeah.
At some point, I think it's important to realize that you're done copying and you're starting to create something that might be a little copy of what people have been doing before, but like add some new stuff to it, make it different, I think that's the way to really get your stuff out there, is to make something that's new.
Yeah.
And because there's like a lot of people, and I'm honored, but I see a lot of people copying my songs or like remixing the songs, or no, maybe remixing is not the right word, but like copying kind of the vibe. And it's too late to do that because like I'm already there, and a couple of other producers that are doing the same thing are already doing their thing. So it's time to do something new, and that's how I got where I'm. I think I got here where I am now by doing something new, and this next album is going to be something new again too. So I don't know if that's a good answer to the question, but that's all I have to say.
That is a perfect answer, man. I love what you had to say. Everything that you said in this whole entire interview is something perfect that I absolutely love, and I can't wait to share it with everyone. And I'm excited to listen to like the new stuff that you have coming out. Like, when is it due? Do you know?
Yeah, I want to. First, I thought I'm gonna spend years on this album, but then I realized when there's a song laying around for 2 years, and then I'm already out of it. I want to make something that's really reasoned and pure. So I've been working on the album for the last 5 months, and I want to release it in 2018. So this year.
Nice.
And then tour it. I just want it to be very recent and real. That's the way I love it the most.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with San Holo. I know that I definitely did. And as I say at the end of every episode, I'm always learning. That's really why I love doing this podcast. And it's my hope for you guys who are listening to this episode. I hope that you guys came out inspired and learned something new from San Holo. While there are many things that I could say, what really stood out to me is San Holo is incredibly unique with his approach to music. Obviously, when we're all making music, we can all borrow and learn from each other and create our own style. But I think that's really what separates the good artists. It's those that are able to hone their own unique voices. And San has really done his own unique thing. And it's why he's at the top of his game and continuing to grow. And so for you guys who are listening to this episode, I hope that you guys are inspired to continue searching your own voice and continue honing in on what makes your style unique. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, if you enjoyed this conversation, I do this every week. So please consider subscribing. I'm on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, basically anywhere that you get your podcasts from, you can find the Nebula Music Podcast. I do my best to really understand the thought process and methods that a lot of my guests use to become successful. It helps me grow, it helps some of my fans grow, and I know that it can help you grow too.